My name is Rudi Matjokana. I'm the Managing Executive for Public Enterprises at Vodacom Business. COVID-19 has quantum leaped IT in education. We have seen how learners and teachers started using technology because at any rate, when COVID-19 hit us, we still needed to find a whole lot of education syllabus to go through. And that has been quantum leap because learners and educators started using computers, cell phones, and any other digital means to be able to go into schools. And that for me has been a blessing in disguise because now the fourth industrial revolution has become a reality even before time. Look, educators, for starters, they've been taught to have a learner in front of them. They've been taught to be interactive and to be a physical contact with the learners. And the challenge we have now is that educators want to have learners and see them on video to see that the learners are focusing and listening on them. Secondly, it's the broadband, where learners used to move out into going to schools and not interact with technology. Now they need to be working on technology and using technology, and then it has an impact on the broadband. And then you start having a lagging of the broadband, and then teachers now have problems to say, oh, wow, this thing is not working. The other challenge is teachers themselves needed to use technology, needed to understand technology, needed to know that you can use your cell phone, you can use your laptop, you can use any other device in order to interact with the learners and teach them. We needed to start by educating and having a change management with teachers for them to know that these things can be used. Connected education, as we in the office use technology to go into the office, speak to our customers, speak to our partners, the same thing is going to happen in education and needs to happen. Now, remote education is a future thing that needs to happen for learners and for educators so that education must never stop. It should not be determined by the distance of the learners or by where the learners are placed. It should be determined by, can education happen at the same time as people are in different places and different homes or different venues. Educators need to be able to reach the learners, to record for the learners, and learners need to be able to interact with the educators, but also they should be able to go and get that video. Now, what great thing this thing is going to have for our learners is that they could record, and if they had missed something, they can go at their individual time and space to go and look at that recording and then go and fill in the gaps of where the information could have been missing. The good thing about technology is that you can use any tool. We have seen teachers using tablets, we have seen teachers using laptops, we have seen teachers using phablets, and these are the technologies that are available that have been using all the time. I mean, for instance, in the Eastern Cape, teachers use laptops to teach in the classroom. Now, when virtual classroom came into the picture, teachers now were able to just go onto their laptops and then stream education to their learners. Look, basically the tools that are available are tools that are available to everybody else. It depends on how the teacher uses the tool. Now, if a teacher has a laptop, you don't need to go into a studio to broadcast to everybody else. All you need is a cam on your laptop or an added camera for you to be able to videotape yourself, or to even do a live video with an interactive with the learners. For instance, we had partnered with Microsoft on their Teams platform. So teachers can then use Teams platform to reach every learner at every point and at any given moment. A learner and a teacher can actually edit a document or give an answer, and the teacher can correct it there and there using the technology that teams provide. I think technology is the future. However, I don't want technology to be used as a separate entity to education. I want it to be an integral part of education. It's like using electricity. To put the light on and off, it's seamless to us. And technology needs to be seamless for it to enhance the education that learners should be able to get. Now, let's give an example. It's like driving a car. You don't want to know what petrol goes into the combustion, okay, what goes into the exhaust system, what are the tires doing. All you need to do is to start the car, drive it, and go from point A to point B. And this is how I want learners and teachers to use technology. They must think of technology enabling education. I'm hoping classes change. I'm hoping classes transform themselves into becoming a better looking system where a class can happen from anywhere. Let's take for an example, somebody gets flu, somebody breaks a leg, somebody breaks a hand. They need to still get education. Now, you will not need to go and sit at home for 3 months or 2 months or a month while you heal and you're missing education. You should still be able to go and press your laptop or your cell phone or whatever device you have to access education, to access your teacher, to be part of the classroom even when you're not there. The pandemic has made us to think out of the box, has made us to think of all alternatives that we could use in education. I basically think it has quantum leaped us, the same way that technology has quantum leaped and got learners and educators and everybody else to start using technology and integrating into our daily lives. I think our thinking should also be like that. We need to think beyond the pandemic. We need to think beyond any other disturbances that we may even have in the near future. Vodacom Business's passion is education, is educating our future, is educating learners to enable them to go into the future being ready, but also to become our leaders. Now, teachers and learners need support, need to be assisted. Our connected education platform is rallied around e-learning, which is zero rated, is rallied around by the virtual classroom, where teachers will be able to teach learners beyond the classroom space or beyond the classroom physical four corners. Vodacom Business would like to help schools and future schools on the connected platform. We have already zero-rated curriculum from grade R to grade 12. Whether you have a textbook or you don't have a textbook, you now have the curriculum on your phone. We have slashed the prices of data to access education, but also to do research and do a whole lot of things around education. What Vodacom has done also is to say, we want to support teachers. We have teacher training or teacher centers in the whole country, 192 of them. Teachers can go and sharpen their skills there. They can go and research there. They can also go and do video streaming for their classes when they don't have the technology within their homes or anywhere else. We at Vodacom Business are looking with keen interest to see where education is going to go. We know that it's not going to be the same. We know that it's going to change. However, we're looking with keen interest at the growth of education. We enable learning using technology. One is we try and start at the basic with learners and give them connectivity. And then after giving them connectivity, we then say, what device do you have? Now, a simple smartphone can work. Learners can use smartphones. They take their own videos, they do their YouTubes, and it was easy with learners, unlike teachers. Because learners use the technology to the maximum. With learning, it became easy because now all they needed to do was to transfer the knowledge they have on using the social media into learning. How has Vodacom helped? Now we then used streaming, we used virtual classrooms, but we also used recorded teacher lessons for learners to be able to get into and use the technology to access a syllabus. Remember, with the lockdown from March to now in September or August, the challenges that we have is that the syllabus will not wait for anybody. In fact, any nation that does not continue the education of their children will be doomed. Now, as Vodacom, we then said, how do we assist learners to be able to get access onto their education and still learn even during the lockdown process? The new opportunities that we have seen through online, especially for learners, is that learners don't need to wait for teachers to teach them. The gifted kids or the gifted learners can learn on their own, can finish the syllabus even before time. But also the learners that they are not as gifted as the others can also learn at the same speed, but also can even have access to this knowledge or to these recordings even after the teaching has happened. You know, in the past, I started using computers at university. Learners are now using computers today. When they go to university, you don't start by learning a computer before you can learn the content of what you want to learn. You're just using this as an enabler for you to be able to learn. Connected education is a perfect solution for students and learners. One is that students, they can pace themselves, they can enjoy their time, they can easily say, I'm going to do this in a week or I'm going to do this in a month. As long as they do what the teacher or the lecturer would have given to them in terms of the timing, all they need to do is to control their time, is to control what they are going to do in the education field. Now, we have zero-rated syllabus, we have zero-rated URLs, we have zero-rated websites for universities. Now, all this combined gives a perfect solution for students and learners to learn. There are a plethora of devices. You've got laptops, you've got tablets, you've got cell phones, and they've got a whole lot of software that comes with these devices. And these are all the tools at the hands of the children. Some would even stream with a TV using a cell phone to mirror it on the television set to use as a tool for learning. We have partnered with the Department of Education. So every curriculum and everything that we put on our platform has been certified and approved by the Department of Education, but they can also search the engine to get all other education systems for their research and for their education and learning. I think learning has already changed. Whether teachers want to change or not, learners have moved on. And learners now know how to use Teams, know how to use all other technologies for them to be able to communicate and collaborate with all other students. Remember, Teams is not only for teachers to communicate with the learners, it's also for learners to communicate with other learners and have group discussions and collaborate in a way that they are able to learn. That for me says learning can never be the same again. Learning and teaching would change completely into the future. Learners will never miss a lesson again. A teacher would then teach in the classroom and it's interactive, but will record the lesson. A learner will be able to go back later on to say, okay, I've missed, we're studying about the theorem of Pythagoras, but I didn't understand that angle thing, the 90 degrees and this thing. Then the learner can go and repeat that lesson at his own time, and the learner will then get all the information, even the missing parts, And then the learner would then say, okay, now I've filled in the gap, I now know. But revision time, the learner can go and say, I want this lesson, and then bring it up into the fold and learn again to revise for exams or for anything. And this will be there for the rest of the storage time. So Vodacom Business would like to partner with the learners on their learning journey onto the future, but also to partner with them in finding tools, finding things that we can use together in this learning trajectory. Vodacom Business would like to partner with the learners on this connected platform. The future belongs to the students and learners, and Vodacom Business would like to provide the tools and resources to make sure that we have a meaningful change in the future. We have created e-learning platforms from grade R to grade 12. We have zero-rated some URLs, some websites for universities, and we have cut prices for NSFAS students, for learners themselves. That in itself, it shows a commitment towards education. Now, the fortunate part about learners and students today, they don't need to be doing all sorts of things to be getting the content. They're getting the content directly, whether at home, whether at school, or whether at a park. They can cut off the time that used to be spent to give notes to the time that used to be spent to learning and to getting more time to do more things that you are supposed to be doing. Connected education is a perfect solution for schools to consider. The reason is schools are future looking. Schools are the epitome of education. Now, with that said, schools will need to consider a connected education platform for their learners, because that's what learners understand. That's the language that learners would listen to today. Learners use computers, learners use softwares and applications today without schools, and schools are remaining behind. The basic teaching and learning in a classroom is good, but imagine the extension of information that students and learners would have at their disposal. Imagine students would be able to learn in a classroom, but also go home to listen to the same lesson that the teacher has been teaching in a classroom, to revise, to relearn, and to fill in the gaps that they might have had. I think schools should consider this, because learners would now have at their disposal everything that they have learned, but everything that they can also access. Imagine a learner that says, I actually understand the amoeba. I actually understand what the teacher was trying to say to me. However, there are few things that I'm missing, and they can actually go and get additional information from the education platform and understand it even better, because now they are having access to all the tools that the schools would have added onto their learning life. It's easy access. It's as good as accessing your WhatsApp. It's as good as accessing your SMS. It's as good as accessing your Twitter. Now, all you're doing, you're transferring those skills into the education platform. You're transferring them so that you can learn, so that you can get more things out of education. So it's an accessible system. It's easy to get. All you need to do is get a cell phone. All you need to do is to get a laptop, is to get a tablet, and it's at a push of a button. You get all these things at your disposal. It broadens the horizon for students and learners, because now you're not dependent on the teacher. As much as the learners will still be dependent on the teacher, but they will now have more and added advantage. This, for me, is what schools should consider for learners, but also for education. The future is embedded in all these things that we see. The future is here. All we need to do is to integrate it with the education system. There are a few things that the pandemic has opened my eyes to. And one of them is that education should not be a complicated matter. Learners should be able to access education from anywhere, anytime. Learners should be able to get educated without having to worry about the physical space, without having to worry about the necessary school venue. They should be able to do things as and when they want to do them. My view is schools have a powerful opportunity at the moment. You can actually take more learners in a particular classroom, and these learners can then do online learning until you have space. Because the challenge I have is that with limiting learners to space, and then they don't get education. 20, 30, 40, or even hundreds of thousands of learners can learn and get education from anywhere, any space, anytime. And this, for me, is that learners would now have access to the resources and tools to enable them to learn, to give them a chance of education. This digital technology brings with it the necessities for us to learn, the necessities for us to assimilate this into our daily life, not as a standalone, but as an integral part of things that we need to do and to learn. Now, we need to understand that there's global goodness. We need to bring everybody with us. We need to bring everybody into the fore of the technology. Now, my view is we need to make sure that all the communities have access to technology. We take everybody with us as we move on with technology. As we do it in education, we need to do it as in a social sense of making sure that our people learn, our people get access to this, and are not afraid to use technology on a daily basis.